Welcome, everybody. Afternoon session. We have a presentation from Salesforce, business architecture-based roadmap planning. Because people were asking me this week, anybody out there in technology doing this? I said, absolutely, Salesforce. And Raj is here. Welcome, Raj. And he is director or head of the business architecture team over there at Salesforce. So after that, just so everybody's aware, don't go too far. We're going to have the end of the day panel, and we're going to have two things going on there, common challenges. And then we are going to have, probably first, we'll go through, we're going to share a little bit and get some feedback on the workshops that we're going to run in September in Chicago. So that's locked in, 10th and 11th. So it's going to be 2 days. We'll have a primer the day before. So just as a heads up, we'll announce that more later. Raj, you're up. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bill. So as in every Salesforce presentation, we start with thank you. So it's like a note of gratitude for all these people who are here, trying to invest their time in this session. I really appreciate you hanging out. I want to believe that you did not find earlier flights and fly back, and also Bill always believes that I would be doing a great job. Even last year, it was the last session of the day. I think he thinks I actually end the sessions with a bang. So I would like to assume that, and he feels that I'm awesome, but I could not be as awesome as Ben from Voya. He was really awesome yesterday. But I'll try my best. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for this one. So here, I'm trying to actually I would like to share our story over the last last year. This is where we are actually doing capability-based roadmap planning. So last year, if you would have asked me what does that mean? I had no clue as to what's involved in that. Because okay, again, before that, just wanted to show this slide. This is Raj, I've been a CBA, and so this is a slide I wanted to use here because I could not use it inside the company. I have nobody to show it to. Nobody wants to know what I am. So I thought I'll just use it. And there are only two slides I actually in the entire deck. There are only two slides I actually made for this presentation. One was the previous one, and one was the last one. The rest of the deck is actually a working deck. Those are the things that we currently use. So I've actually taken out more from those slides rather than actually having to create slides for this presentation. So it's what you're seeing here is what we use. And then just for clarifying, I come from the internal Salesforce architecture team. So we are actually grouped under the architecture team. We sit under the CIO, and we have a parallel organization, which is the technology organization, which has again a set of architecture, enterprise architects, business architects. So they actually take care of all the business architecture for clients, externally facing roles. But what we do is actually we do the internal stuff. So we actually take care of the internal operations here. So I'm from that team. So I just wanted to clarify that first. And just to people who do not know Salesforce, it was actually founded in 1999. So we actually celebrated our 25th year, March. So we have been always if you have looked at how Salesforce is growing, it's been always a growing company for the last 25 years. And it's it's based out of 60 countries, and we have 70,000 employees spread across the world. So we have it's a really big organization. As in any big organization, we have a lot of teams, a lot of people, politics, and what all big organizations go through, right? But here it is much more amplified because the organization is not actually standing in one place. It's actually it's a very dynamic organization which keeps pivoting. It actually moves and changes completely. In 6 months' time, it's a whole new organization. I was telling someone earlier, we had a vision statement to as we wanted to be a data CRM company. And like last year and like 6 months down the line, AI came in, and then now we want to be an AI company. So that's how fast our vision statements change. Like, so like we have to be, so that actually complicates the entire stuff, right? Because people want to actually, invest their time to actually understand stuff, do things, but then the organization keeps you to actually, demands that you actually keep moving forward. So, and it's like, for people who do not know what Salesforce, like we actually develop customer relationship management software, which helps you to actually bring in new customers, market to customers, then service your customers. So we have the entire gamut of suits, like what you see on the right is what we currently support. Like we have Einstein bots. So we also acquired a lot of companies in a short time. So we have Slack, Tableau, MuleSoft. So those are the big acquisitions that we have done. And so the idea is to actually improve communication and productivity. Okay, so but what are we trying to do? Like, so what was the problem statement for this capability roadmap planning? So last year, so you must have all read in the papers, like, so we had like a lot of downturn, right? Like people were getting laid off. Sales was one of the companies which laid off a lot of people in January. So then the question was like, then the entire economy actually changed. Like a lot of companies were looking at like, okay, like now we were always in a growing phase. Now we need to conserve what we have done. Like, so I need to find out, I need to do like efficiency, operational efficiency. I need to have like high performing teams in place. I need to track every dollar that is being spent. Okay, so and then we were actually there, like we were business architects till that point of time. Our primary focus was actually putting together a capability map. We are trying to go meet the business, get their time. So they say like, okay, we gave them some inputs. They say like, come back after like 2 weeks, we'll have something ready. They go back. Then they say like, okay, no, I did not have time to do it. Can you come back after 2 weeks? Can we actually talk about that? So like we were actually going back and forth. But what happened at this point of time was there was a sudden shift in actually the management, how the management was. We sat under the CIO org, and the CIO was very, very like there's a new person who has come in. He was like Juan Perez, who actually moved from UPS. He moved to Salesforce the previous year, but like he had a new mandate. I need to track what we are doing. I need to improve the efficiency. Like I need to have high performing teams. How do I do that? Like, why are we spending so much money? So the answer was like, are we doing the right things first? Like all the initiatives that we have, are they aligned to the strategy that we have? So then he said like, okay, where are the architects? Let's call the architects. Let's do something like a plan. Like he knew that we are doing a capability exercise. And then can we do like a roadmap to show like where we are, where we need to go? And at that point of time, like we were at the right persons at the right time, at the right place, right? And that was like the Kung Fu Panda moment, right? Like in Kung Fu Panda doesn't know he's a dragon warrior. And like I was just telling someone, like, and so you needed a person like Uguay to come and tell him that you are the dragon warrior. Right? So that is the moment that we had where we were actually mandated to go ahead and do a capability roadmap. So that, as I was telling you earlier, like we actually knew what a capability was, value stream. I had presented in the previous guild conference as well. So I was aware of value streams, what's the value stages, process, I CBA certified as well. But the idea was to actually see how our strategy and project initiatives, we had product teams as well, how they are all connected together, how we actually address like one focus and address the strategic areas. So that's what was requested. So what we had done is like we as part of the business architecture team, we had around five to six people team now. Like we have one more person joining. So we have a 6-person team. What we did was we actually went back and then we thought, okay, how do we actually do this? Okay, before we go to that, like I'll also show you how we actually improved as a practice. So business architecture team was actually developed in like 2019. Like I think that's even before me. Like I just joined Salesforce 2 years back. So they put together some kind of capability map. but that is not used. It was not institutionalized. Nobody knew what is a capability map. So I think last year, when I came here to present, we just did not have the last 2 years filled up. But what we did was we actually scaled it up. So we actually published those decks. We went to business, told them that these are the capability maps. This is what we have in our systems and other stuff. But this year, last year, that is June of last, I think April, May of last year. So we got mandated to do the capability roadmap. So we actually picked up 3 business areas. So we are all aligned as per business areas. So I am aligned to the ES, or the employee, we call it as employee success, the HR part. Then one person is aligned towards the finance part. Other person is like revenue ops kind of stuff. So we actually picked up 3 areas where we were doing this road mapping part. And so we actually started to put together some plan for it. So now, like in this year, we are mandated to complete the entire org. Like that is like every other thing that you actually see in the organization, except for the product org. We are trying to do this capability roadmap. The idea is to actually baseline, see where we are, like are we doing the right things, where the gaps are, where we had to invest and other stuff. So that's what we are trying to do this year. And also like value streams, we have like an informal setup of value streams. We also have like a data architecture team. So we have like a plan to actually include information concepts, tie it back to data models, have it in Alation. Those kind of stuff is also happening in parallel. So, but that's our journey so far. So the approach is like, so what are we trying to do here? We're trying to take, Salesforce also has something called as business model. I don't know if you're customers of Salesforce, but when Salesforce teams come in, like what they do is they actually do like a business model canvas first. So they try to find out like what's your business model. Then from that, they actually have templates. Like suppose you want to go into you want to go to the next 3 years, like innovate and do something. What are the areas within this canvas that you need to address? If you need to actually see like operational efficiency, then these are the 5 boxes that you need to concentrate. So they have like templates for it. So the idea is that we have a model canvas to identify the strategy. Then we have the strategy maps. Then we actually have business capabilities. We have people, process, technology components for this business capabilities. And then we have the investments, like investment lens, like again, it's tracked separately, but identifying investments made for this initiatives, tying back all of them and seeing whether like where we want to go in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's what we are trying to do here. And how we did it was like this. So if you look at it, this is like an actual play. This is part of a playbook. So what we did was we developed a playbook. The idea here is we should be able to take this and run in like 10 to 12 weeks. That's written here. Again, the caveat there is like you should actually have like the Uguay in the organization who's actually driving this down. Without that happening, it's very difficult to drive these kind of conversations happening in 12 weeks. So what we did was we actually have a plan. So this is part of a playbook. So we have the steps identified for each of this phases. And for each of the step, we have like an approach that needs to be taken, a template that needs to be filled out, how we are going to handle it, who are the stakeholders for those specific steps, and what is the outcome of that step. So we prepared for each of the steps that you see here below each of the phases here. We have like a detailed template available with like how you do it. So the idea here is like, again, I saw in Brent's presentation earlier, it is not the person, it's actually the practice, right? So what we are trying to do here is making it institutionalized. Like if I am not there, there could be somebody else who could take this up, run with it in 10 to 12 weeks. So that's the approach that we are trying to follow. We also have a lighter version of it. So like I said, telling you earlier, like Salesforce keeps changing, like every 6 months, it keeps changing. We have a reorg almost like every 6 months, there is a reorg. So like the essence is time and what we do with that, right? So we also have a lighter version of this same kind of approach that we are prepared for refreshing the capabilities, refreshing the roadmap. So like this is the first approach that we would follow for any business function which is still not baselined. Once we baseline them, then we have a lighter version. So like next year when I go back, I don't have to do everything. I do like 4 steps out of this and say like, okay, these are the differences. This is where this has changed. These are the applications that has come in. So those are the things that we are trying to do. Like there is like a faster, like a lighter one that we could do in like 4 to 6 weeks time. So that is like a every year refresh, but this is like a baseline approach. So that's a approach that we had followed. And also like how we had done this, right? So I was talking to a few people here, right? We have been always like going through like, so this is how we have our capabilities. This is where we have a value streams. But from my perspective or from like my experience, I could say like the execution is the very, very difficult part. So it's like very, very difficult to get things done. Like, so like if you have a capability, you have a description for a capability, how do you know? It's like if you want to get a feedback, like I go to a person, say like, okay, can you please tell me whether the description of this capability is right? For that person to validate this description, so they would involve a team meeting. They would actually have a team meeting, discuss about that. So it would take at least like a couple of weeks for me to actually have a description of a capability like finalized. So that's how difficult it is when we actually are executing it. So that is one. And there is no like clear definition of ownership for capabilities. Okay, so like, so organizations are defined like even before you actually invented capabilities. Probably like, I don't know how they came up with the structure, but how we have capabilities here are like totally different from how our organizations are structured. There are some capabilities where there is no ownership. Nobody knows who's owning it, but there is like capability there. There is some applications linked to it, but I don't know, like I thought like this belongs to IT, this belongs to business. And there are some capabilities where there are multiple stakeholders. Like there are multiple people who are owning that capability. So what happens is like, so then we have to go and discuss. So the execution is very, very difficult. Even to get, it's very easy to see it in like a PowerPoint, like, okay, you rated this capability with the maturity of 1. But to get to that, it's like, I thought it was very, very difficult even like before this approach. How do I do that? Like I have 100, like 60 people in my business partners who are supporting like 5 capabilities. And then I go to them, each person has his own perception. Like, how do I rate a capability? Like, what is the maturity level of this capability? So that's what we are trying to address in this particular approach. And so as I actually mentioned here, we took like a hybrid approach. There are certain things where we actually did offline. That is like something like going educating people, making them understand what's a capability. Because every session that we had, we would start with what's the difference between a capability and a process. Okay, so it's like a known fact, like because people do not remember it. Like they actually think process is a capability, most of them. So we actually start with what is a capability, what's a process. So we had a kind of like exercises for them to understand what's a capability and a process. How do you differentiate between both? So we had a few things where we have educational material which was sent, like we use Slack very extensively within Salesforce. So we actually had Slack channels created. We sent out communications to them. Like most of them do not read it, but still it was there. but it was there. It was there in the channel somewhere. But if they wanted to go back, so what we did was we, instead of sending like a large, like a big message with a lot of links, we actually made it bite-sized. So like, because every day we sent out like only one thing to do, so that you just click on a link, learn about it, just like a 2-minute or 30-second video kind of stuff we did, and we actually sent them that. So those are the things that we did, like the offline part. Then we actually did like a collaborative approach. The collaborative approach was like, so we did a lot of detailed preparations for it. Like we used a collaborative tool like Miro, like you could use Lucid. Now we are using Lucid Spark. The idea was to actually bring in all these people, try to actually do like a consensus-based stuff. Like Salesforce, as you know, like is a very democratic organization. Like you cannot take a decision just by yourself. You like just to know like what's the maturity of a capability, you need to actually ask all the 60 people. The 60 people give you their perspectives. Then you actually consolidate it and then show to them back saying, okay, this is what you gave me. Is this right? Then people will have their feedback. Then, so this happens, right? So it's like, I think that's the truth about any organization, right? Which is democratic. I worked in like even government organizations, like in school districts here in San Francisco and other stuff. It's very democratic how people work, but it also adds up delays. But the thing is, like, once it is set, I think it is good, like, because everybody has some kind of buy-in. So we had a collaborative approach, and then we actually did some things which are vision and strategies, or discussions with the larger VPs, EVPs. So we actually did some kind of approach for them. So those were like face-to-face interviews with them, asking what's the vision, what's the direction, where do you want to go in 3 to 5 years. But like, truth be told, like nobody knew where they want to go in 3 to 5 years, because everything is changing. Like, so thing is, like, what do I do? Like, what's going to happen in 5 years? Because like every 6 months I'm changing my company here, right? Like, how do I know where 3 years down the line? So like they say, Raj, I can only give you some kind of themes that I can go ahead with. Like, these are the areas that I want to look at. I cannot tell you like, okay, I want to increase this by 100%, like this by 20%, because I don't know. Like, if I had done that, like, I would have not laid off so many people, right? So like 3 to 5 years down, nobody could predict. Like, nobody could predict. Economy is changing. Like, it's like changing there's like so many things happening. Like, there are so many micro decisions which are happening at an organization level there. And it's not just the people that like, everybody makes small decisions, and it changes as a company. That's the beauty that I saw when I actually was a business architect. Like, it was like when I was an enterprise architect or like a solution architect, I looked at applications. But here I was actually seeing those micro decisions being made across all these other stuff, and how as an organization, it was actually moving the organization. It's like a living organism, right? So it has its mind of its own. Even if you do not want to control it, it's being controlled by all these micro decisions, right? And then we had the socialization part. So we actually went ahead and presented. So I did a presentation for the CHRO. Like, idea was to actually business would be the owners for this. So they have to take ownership of what we are doing. The idea was to go and socialize this with business, the IT teams. So that's something that we had done. So this was the approach. And then we had all this RACI done. So like, for every step, we identified a RACI. So the idea here is to find out like who is owning what. So even before we went into this, like, what we did was we collected all the stakeholders. So for my area, we had around 200 stakeholders that I actually had to work with for these workshops. 200 stakeholders. How did we get there? Again, a scientific approach. So we went into what they were doing. So we went into the roles that were involved within these capabilities. What are the roles that people work on, and what are their skill sets, and who would be appropriate for this particular capability? So that was a big exercise that we did even before we went into it. So like, we went in, we knew that, okay, so this capability requires these processes are managed by these roles have these skill sets, and these people will be able to provide me this information. So we had actually taken a list of stakeholders. We did a stakeholder analysis, then came up with some kind of stakeholders for this workshops. And every workshops, okay, the next one was actual selling, right? So right now I've told you like how we had planned it, the 5 phases, how we had done the like how we identified the stakeholders who would be involved in this. Then we have to sell it, right? So then selling is, again, I'm not going through this again with you, because it will be like you have gone through this for the last two days, where capabilities, benefits of capability. For a new person, they have to understand why we are using capability, right? So we have to sell this concept, like, why are we using capability? What's the good? What's in it for me, right? So we went ahead, we created a vision statement. We again have to market it internally. Went into the business units, told them, okay, this is, so first day, first meeting, you got like a 5-minute slot in a 1-hour call. So like, okay, I just have to show this one. Okay, what am I doing? What I'm planning to do? So this is a capability. Then this is what I'm trying to do, and this is how it will help. Next time, okay, they'll give me a 10-minute slot. So like, so it's like, so we just like, the idea is to actually turn up every day, even though you're not wanted there, right? Like, it's like, right, because nobody knew what I was doing. Nobody knew like what is the, like, I've heard this again and again. What's the value that you are bringing, right? The point is like, if you idea is to actually go persevere, go sit in all these meetings, sit in these meetings. There will be a point where you actually go and show your value, right? So there will be a point where you would actually be contributing to those meetings much more effectively. And just that, like in most organizations, it will be like every meeting will have a different set of participants, right? Because people will be on holidays, PTO. Just by going to all these meetings, you would be the common thread. so, so that so happens that you would be the common thread. There will be a reorg, some people will move, and who is the person who will summarize? It's the business architect who can summarize what's happened over this, all these three. So, so that's something that we did, and then again we have to tell them why we require it. Like, so from an investment perspective, like strategic investments perspective, like a prioritization perspective, we could use capabilities. Then we could actually do like a in a heat map kind of stuff. Then we could actually do portfolio stuff. So those are the things that we are trying to sell here. Like what we are trying to sell here, do here is where we want to go, where we are, and how to bridge this gap. Right. So that's what we are doing. Like, this is the vision. This is where we want to go. This is my strategy. But this is where I am. Like, so how do I get there? Right. So that's what we are trying to do here. And so this is like, I've just taken a rough screenshot. It's like a very big Miro board. So this is like a big Miro board. This is what we actually used for the workshops. So the workshops had around 60 participants. Every workshop had 60 participants, like 3-hour workshops. I did around 12 for the employee success. My colleague Mike, he had done around 12 for the finance area. So they're like parallel, like revenue. So we actually were doing all. So everything utilizes the same kind of approach. So it's the same kind of mirror board approach, collaborative approach. So what we do when we bring in all these people, the first one, there are multiple objectives. So we wanted to utilize the time of the people effectively. Like, you bring in people, 60 people, 30, like for 3 hours. So it's like 180 hours gone from the organization's perspective. They're spending their time there, right? So what we did was we actually did like a micro objectives for this particular exercise. What are we trying to get? We're trying to first identify whether we have the right capabilities, validate whether we have the right capabilities. Second, whether the descriptions are right. Right. What is the outcomes related to this capabilities? Do we have the outcomes associated with this capabilities? Next, who owns this capability? That's a major question. Nobody knew who owned that capability. So who owned this capability? Next, what is the maturity level of this capability? So it's a very easy term, maturity level of a capability, but like, how do you measure it? Again, there are 3 aspects to it. Like Bisbach said, like people, process, technology. We have a rubric for it. Then we actually went ahead and provided the rubric. So the idea is to actually get consensus on where we stand on a people, process, technology, and then come back to like pain points, or what do you think are the pain points in this capability area, and then go ahead and finish off with like, where do you see yourself with respect to these capabilities? Do you see yourself like in 2 years or 5 years? Will these capabilities change? Will some of these capabilities fall out of this capability map, like obsolete, right? Or do you think we need to add more capabilities in the next 2 years? What are the things that we could focus on? So these are around 6 or 7 objectives that we had from these workshops. And what we did was we actually time boxed it. So everything was an activity. Every activity was around 10 to 15 minutes. And all the 60 participants could see what the other person is doing. Like, where are they moving their dots? How are they rating their capabilities? Right. So that's one thing very interesting about Miro, was like a collaborative approach. So everybody like, okay, like I'm not the only person rating this too, but I could see like everybody else was rated it too. Right. So that's something that was very helpful. So what we did was we actually ran, like from my perspective, I ran 12 workshops. Then what we did was we consolidated all the output. Then we took an average some places where they said like the frequency is not distributed, like they're not distributed equally, like some persons rated it like really low, really high, there's nothing in between. So those cases we saw the mode instead of the mean. So we saw that, we actually developed, like we actually took an output of that, sent it back to business, said, okay, this is what we have seen from you, is this right? So again, one more thing which I was actually doing, I'm also a part database architect. So what I was doing was actually doing application rationalization as also part of this exercise. So we were collecting for these capabilities. What you see here are the applications. Do you have anything else that you're using? So it is like shadow IT, right? So people listed all these other applications for these capabilities that they're currently using as well. So we got the applications that they were using, which were not recorded anywhere. So these are all shadow IT applications. We got them. So we got them into, so again, we use LeanIX internally. So we actually, it's like a good repository of stuff. So we are trying to consolidate everything into LeanIX. So applications, so in one shot, we address capabilities with applications, and what are the applications which are out there. So we took everything in this workshop. And how do you present it? Like one serious drawback I see with all this, like LeanIX or any kind of repository, is that like the EA tools are used mostly by only EAs or business architects. It's not user friendly for like a common, like a person who's consuming the data, right? So like I cannot go and give a link to a report from LeanIX or like anything to my CIO. CIO would ask me 100 questions based on the data that he's seeing. Like, why is that? How did you do this? Right. So what we did was we came up with like a template. This is one of the templates that we used. So what we did was, for every capability, we had 2 slides. This is actually the business architecture slide of that. So one slide was talking about business architecture. One slide was talking about applications and the pain points. So every slide had this. So this is actually giving you in one slide. So when I send it to business business partners or business leads, right, I just cut those areas that they own and send it to them. So in one shot, they can actually see like, okay, these are my capabilities within my area. Okay, these are the maturity levels for my area. This is like a people process technology. This is where we want to be. This is where we are lacking. And these are the outcomes that would be impacted by that. Like, these are the pain points. And then the next slide would talk about applications. What are the applications they own? What are the key pain points from that as well? So in 2 slides, every business owner, like leader, was able to find out what's happening within that particular capability. So like in the ES space, we had around 70 capabilities. My deck was around 260 slides. Right? Because like I have to start with what is the difference between a capability and a process. And then I have to actually take them through how we actually did the approach, and then how we actually did the workshop, and what were the findings of the workshop, and how. So this is something that we gave to business leaders, but we went one level higher to like the CIO or the CHRO or the CFO. We even summarized this into like that slide. I could just talk about everything with just one slide. So we have all the metrics in that slide. So we knew like they could know at a high level in their area, in the ES space or the employee success space, where the pain points are, the top 5 capabilities which are lacking, top 5 best performing capabilities, how you could actually improve, like where the investments are going, what the initiatives are that are happening. So those kind of stuff we gave. Like, it's like, again, we created one more template, but the bottom line is, so whatever tools that we are using, we could have even used Excel, right? So it doesn't matter. But the idea is that we need to actually take out the data, make it into a consumable format. So the next question was like, you made a deck with 260 slides. Are you going to keep it updated every year? The answer is yes. Because the next year I'm going to do a refresh, right? Like, I'm going to do a light refresh. I don't have to recreate these slides. I'm just going to update these slides. right? So I could, so the idea is to actually give feedback, get their inputs back, iterate back, and so just that's actually ongoing process, right? And this is one more view that we have given them. So this is where they actually see the different capabilities, like they had like sub capabilities within them, and you see the maturity gaps. So what we did was we identify some strategic themes that the organization or like that business unit wanted to go. Then we identify capabilities associated with those strategic themes. Then we know the capability maturity that is required for those strategic themes. Then we identify the gap that we have from the current one to the to the future, and then we actually provided them the gap. So idea is to actually say wherever the gap is more, common sense says that you need to invest more, right? Like that's where I'm like, but the other thing is we should also be careful about the strategy of the company. There could be some area where the gap is really high, but my strategy of my company says I don't want, like I just want to consolidate, I just want to wait and go through this lean phase before I just start investing more. Then it doesn't make sense for that. So I think that's like that's a decision of like the higher up, like CIO or like CFO or CHRO. So what we are trying to do here is to provide all this data to them. Right now they don't have a clue where to invest. Like here I'm telling you like a scientific approach of how you could actually see all these parts and then make your decision on where you need to invest. And also what we also did was we also gave them this kind of mapping. So where you have a capability, you have a L3 capability, then we also gave them a recommendation how you could improve the gaps in these ones. And then they also had some kind of strategic initiatives already lined up. So we took those and said, okay, you have all these 20 strategic initiatives lined up, but we see these are the gaps that you have in your capabilities. Are they matching? Are they matching or there are gaps? And how does it impact your strategic key themes? That is your like 4 or 5 strategic areas that you want to go. So this is something that we gave, and also we had a similar slide. As I was telling you earlier, we did application rationalization. So I also did a similar thing for a 3-year, 3 years. This is your current state architecture, system architecture, application architecture. In 3 years, this is going to change this way. So if you're going to go there, so these are the applications you need to move to. These applications, you got like 5 applications doing training here. Why do you need 5 applications doing training? Can you not move it to one application? You save money here. So can you not have like 15 applications for event management? Why don't you have one which could actually do event management? So we also did a parallel one for applications as well. So it's like a combination, like business and application together, going together. And in addition to this, as part of the workshops, we also did a part of the process workshops as well. Like, so we actually were trying to do like multiple teams came together to do the workshops. It's like there's a separate team called process excellence team, which is called the global business process organization. They came in, they actually are trying to do discovery of the processes and the KPIs associated with these processes. We're trying to do that as well. And then we came back with this kind of approach, right? This is like a roadmap, typical roadmap slide based on whatever we found there, based on the investments that we are making, when we could do this investment, when we could do the next investment. The idea here is this is a recommendation, right? This is just a recommendation. Like I could give this to a CIO, like a CFO, CHRO. They could take this input from me and say, I don't care about this. I want to spend my dollars here. It's absolutely right. Like they have a better view of, there are certain things that are being discussed, certain things which they know more. Probably they could do that. The idea here is like, but this is a recommendation from us. So what would happen next year? So I would go back to this deck, take this one, go back to them, say, okay, last year we recommended all this stuff, but you did not do 4 of these. You did 3 of these. So where did we spend the rest of the dollars? Right? That is something like where we actually go and ask them. That's how the refresh happens. Right? That's where we actually go and update our capabilities. So that's our journey so far. So this is the last slide. I don't know if I'm good on time, but yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, but the lessons learned. So like as I told you earlier, So we actually prepared this playbook. We had the deliverables that saved us a lot of time. We put in a lot of effort to create the playbook, templates, how we run this one, how we run the workshops. The planning took a lot of time. We spent around 2 months to plan everything, but actual execution took us like probably 10 weeks kind of stuff. So put in more effort to the planning phase. Then we actually have identify stakeholders. So identifying stakeholder is also very key. It's because to measure capability, you need to have the right people to measure capability. I cannot ask a VP or a EVP to come and measure a capability. He doesn't know anything about what's happening in the ground, right? So how will you measure a capability when you do not know what's happening in the ground? So you need to involve the right people there. And so we had a lot of back and forth with respect to rubric definitions. The question was like, oh no, I think most people did not read the rubric. They just went in and filled up like 1, 2, or 3. I don't think this is the right stuff. So then we had a session to actually sensitize people on the actual rubric. How do you want to measure it, right? So these are like practical difficulties we had, and business priorities with technology. And also one key thing, at the end of the day, everybody, like each one of us, was trying to prove their value, right? We are all in the pursuit of, like a pursuit of happiness. We are in the pursuit of value, right? But I think instead of pursuing it, we just, whatever we are doing, we should accept that's the value that we are bringing, right? And then we be happy with ourselves, share it with people. So I think it has to be in a consumable format, not just for the enterprise architecture or business architecture, for people who make the decisions. That's what we are working for. So key takeaways, okay, again, I think I'm out of time here. So again, one more key thing that we saw was like, we should also be flexible enough to add new capabilities or something like, so in the workshop we go and like we have designed it for like 15 capabilities, and then business comes back and say, oh no, I think you missed out one more capability. We should be flexible enough to add it, take it through the entire process there, and then get consensus on it. Okay, and then the last one is very, very important. The last point in that, it's not enough to actually do the workshops, get all the feedback that you get for the capability, maturity, everything. It needs to go back into the system. So it needs to get updated into the system. You need to have a baseline. We don't have a baseline. Next year it's starting from 0. So you need to go back to the baseline. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks everyone for spending. All right.
Looks like we're going to have some questions. Why don't we start here in the room?
Hey, on the roadmap slide, how did you determine the sequencing?
Sequencing, we did the prioritization kind of stuff. So what we have a BRICE prioritization kind of stuff, and then we actually took inputs from the business saying, okay, these are the priorities for these initiatives. What do you want to do now? And there's a dependencies also, like for every initiative, we identify dependencies. So if there are dependencies need to happen first, then you actually do this. So again, there is like a lot of discussion, like everything involves a lot of time and effort.
Okay, we got one on the far side. Go ahead.
Hi. You talked about using Lean IX as a tool to help the architects gather the information and capabilities. I wanted to know what information you use from Lean IX to help you with the actual PowerPoint. What, like Lean IX has several canned reports, application landscape, etc. Just curious.
Only thing is, it's not like visually appealing.
Yeah.
But whatever you see on the slides are there in Linux. Like we have capabilities, we have processes, we have applications, we have integrations, we have strategic initiatives, we have product lines. So we use it extensively within the system. But the only drawback I see is like with any tool, I believe, like it would be the how it's consumable by non-enterprise architects or non.
There weren't any specific ones, and you didn't have to create any on your own from Lean IX. You pretty much used out of the box.
Yeah, that's right. Like we have a lot of reports. We created capability reports. Yeah, we pretty much standard reports out of Lean IX.
Thanks.
Okay. We have any online? Okay. All right.
This is a quick one. What was the total scope for the capability roadmap?
Scope in the sense like we are defined it by business functions. So I did it for ES, employee success.
Think that it was about lines of business.
So we just had 3 lines of business that we were doing as part of this. But next year we will be completing all lines of business, like whatever is outside the product teams, we would be completing
Yeah.
all of them.
Okay.
Let's go over here, Joseph.
Yeah, in the determining of the rubric for the measurement, as I see that might be one of your biggest challenges, how difficult was it to handle and I'm gonna take right from Julian's, corporate dynamics to get the measurements down? And did you have to break it into more perspectives than one, i.e. a risk perspective, a compliance perspective, and then an overall maturity perspective? Or do you see that happening in the future?
I think that we need to revisit the rubric. We had already gone ahead and did a version 2 of the rubric. It's like it is a very difficult topic to address, like because so business has one, like again, rubric, measuring something based on rubric is perception, right? It's not quantitative. It's not like based on numbers. It's like perception. Okay, where do I fit? Like, okay, I'm here, I'm there, right? So then what we had was the challenge. What we had was in the technology maturity. Business rated technology maturity low, so something like 1 or 2 in their respective capabilities. But IT came back, said like they already have the tools for that. Why do you think that they are actually rating it 2, like 1? So then what we did was we actually took both their inputs, said like, okay, out of all these capabilities, business has rated it 1 here, IT is rating 4 here, so where there is a gap here. So we actually took 10 capabilities from that, had a separate discussion with IT and business saying, why do you think there is a gap here? Like, why do you think, okay, data is not being used right? Or are there problems with training? Those kind of stuff. But I definitely think the rubric, it's not very easy to actually rate something looking at a rubric. And the more we divide, I think it needs to be simple, but when it becomes simple, then I think maturity ratings will be off. So, but it's like a balance that we need to have.
I love that answer. Ruth online.
Okay, I think the next one. There's a really good question right here. I just missed it. Who owns and how often do you maintain the business capability assessment data?
Yeah, that's like who owns business actually owns the capabilities. We help them, we drive them. That's very clear. We do it like we are planning to do it every year. So every year we go refresh it.
Okay, good. Far side question.
Thank you. I related to a bunch of what you stated and were able to go back through some of my pain points as I was going through assessments such as these. And when it came to the end and we had developed the roadmap initiatives over the next 3 to 5 years and socialized that before it came to the seniors that this was going to be delivered to, there was twitching when we when we said, okay, this is the recommended roadmap. Once they saw it and they saw it laid out, to them, it was going to be concrete. And if we delivered it to the seniors, then it was going to be so, even though it's recommended and there still had to be decisions made. How did you have that experience? How did you overcome this?
So what we did was, so we knew that is like a very sticky thing, right? Like not many people would be really appreciative of this roadmap, right? Like even the business partners who gave us the inputs for the capability will not take it. Because so at the end of the day, everybody is trying to do a job, right? There's some people's job could be impacted, some people's roles could be impacted, right? So what we did, we took a top-down approach there. So we first went to the top, asked them like, does it look fine? Like, do you think it works? Kind of stuff. And then we said, okay, so this is a recommended, but then what we also did was we actually gave the output of this kind of stuff just before the long range planning, like our yearly planning process happens. We gave these inputs to the leaders. So again, we were stressing the point that these are all inputs that you could take and plan for the future. I do not expect this to happen 100%, but this could be an input. Like even if it could like use it like 20%, that's great for me. That's a win for me. Like I'm not doing anything already. Like if you could use it for 20%, it's a win. I would take that, right?
Okay, online?
So, what are the magic words in how you explain process versus capability that resonated with your executives?
Yeah, we had a process and capability. What we did was, as part of the workshop, like in the Miro, it's not clearly visible. I just tried it not to be visible because it's like a lot of Salesforce stuff was there. But what we did was we actually took them through something like a coffee shop example. So what we took them to something that they were very familiar with, right? So like a coffee shop, like a Starbucks. So we said, okay, you go to a coffee shop. So you know how coffee shop operates. There are people running the coffee, there are people taking the orders, there are people delivering the coffee, there is like drive-in happening. So what do you think are the capabilities there? What do you think are the processes there? So we had the exercise was for twofold, because we are using Miro. Miro is like not a regularly used tool within Salesforce. So we wanted participants to be comfortable using Miro, like moving objects and other stuff. So we wanted to have like a small icebreaker kind of stuff where we wanted them to first find out the capabilities for a coffee shop. It's like everybody knows how a coffee shop is, right? So they did that. Then they did the processes underneath that. So we did like a workshop, like a 10-minute exercise, and then we got into the capability part. So that actually helped us a lot.
Pierre, Niven?
Raj, fantastic presentation. You said it as it is. It was nice. Thank you for that. Question on one of your key takeaways. You said that you have like adding and removing capabilities. So I guess twofold question. I apologize, Mike. But, the first one is, and I might have missed this, is that a standard model that you use within Salesforce? Like,
Yeah, I think it's more or less aligned to, like, I have compared it with the reference model, but it's not very much aligned because it's done like 4 years back. It's probably around 50 to 60% aligned to whatever capabilities that is there in the reference model, but there are other things as well, like how we are defined capabilities. So that is, again, so the thing is, like, there are two things you have to understand. Like when I say adding and the subject, you should understand that people have not seen this. Like this is the first time actually people are looking at it. These are like some business folks have never looked at what is a capability. So they're looking at it like, how did you decide this without informing me? Like, I'm not the person who did it, but like it is like 4 years back. But if you think that there's anything missed out, you can tell us, we can record it, we can take a consensus, and then we can add it. So we had like a parallel stream doing that one.
so you do a comparison exercise. I was thinking of the stability of the model.
Yeah.
If you're looking at using this and reviewing it every year,
Correct.
the stability becomes questionable, which is something we've had to.
No, like we're not changing a lot. We just added one, I think.
Okay.
Only one capability we added, like paid transparency, something
Right.
like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Down here?
Yep. So apologies if I missed this, but how do you surface the value you believe can be unlocked by investing in some of these capabilities?
So we actually addressed that one with the initiative. So if you look at the last bit of like last slides, where we actually identified capabilities to strategic, like the capabilities, recommendations, then they had initiatives. So even before we went there, they already had started piling up all these initiatives with costs. Like, okay, so they had the cost, like, so it's like going to charge us like 1 million, 2 million kind of stuff. So we took that and then we actually compared it with the strategic initiatives and then said, like, are we spending it in the right places here? Like, is this giving me like spending here 1 million? Is it valuable? Should I do it somewhere else where we have maturity gaps are low? So we had it, but it's not captured within LeanIX. It's actually a portfolio planning tool that we currently use. So it's captured there, then we compared it here.
Online?
Annually, are you rerunning the workshops and stakeholder engagement or using metrics and discussions, or what's next year look like?
Next year looks like it's like a mini workshop kind of stuff for the light version. So it's like not going to take us a lot of time. The idea is to actually have a light version before that, and then Also, parallelly, there is as I told you earlier, we had a process excellence team as well, which is working on the processes part. They are actually doing some kind of process deep dives. They're trying to identify KPIs associated with processes. So one more thing that I'm planning to do is to actually how to actually make it quantifiably linked to capability, like improving the API of something. Will it improve the capability of the maturity of my capability? That's the question, right? Like if I improve my KPI, like if I improve my people processes, if I improve my technology, like with the KPI is better, will it improve my maturity here? That's the question I'm next year trying to answer. Probably I'll come back with that answer.
One more online?
Sure. How did you go about getting buy-in from the other areas that were needed to complete the RACI?
So that's like a racy, like nobody wants to take ownership, right? Yeah. So that's the funny part. Like, oh, as long as business architect is doing, I'm fine. Don't come to me for decisions, right? Don't come to me and ask for decisions, or don't come to me. And so what we did was, again, that's the like Kung Fu Panda thing. We actually got everything driven down from top. Like Wendy's golden thread. There is like a golden thread, right? In Salesforce, we have a golden thread called the V2 MOM, which is like, it's called vision, values, methods, measures, obstacles. So everybody runs by this code. It's nothing but OKRs. It is like a cascaded down from Mark, the CEO. Everybody run, like I can go and see Mark's V2 MOM. I can go and see my boss's V2 MOM. Everything runs by the V2 MOM. If it's not in the V2 MOM, it doesn't get done. That's the quote in Salesforce. So what we ensured that was we tried to influence the CIO to include it in every other business's V2 MOM. So he had a line item saying, I run a capability roadmap for 3 areas for like employee success, finance, and revenue. And he went back and went to the chief revenue officer, chief financial officer, chief CHRO, said like, can you have it in your V2 MOM? So once it's there in their V2 MOM, it gets cascaded down. So once it's cascaded down, it becomes easy because it's part of what you have to deliver this year. I don't have to actually build a business case for myself, right? Like nobody is trying to help me, like, but I'm just trying to actually help you do the business right, but then you will also help me in return because it's there. Like we can both win, right? Next year.